Well, many years ago I was stationed at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, and I had the opportunity to see a show in Kansas City, and it was a Paul Strand show. And I'd never seen photography like that before, and I was just taken away by the whole thing. Paul Strand, since then, has always been one of my idols. And then, of course, over the years, I've seen a lot of photography, and the photographers that have impressed me most, in addition to Paul Strand, was Edward Weston and his son, Brett Weston. Ansel Adams, of course, would be in there as well, but the thing that I liked about Strand and both of the Westons is that they were not limited in any way. They photographed everything, whether it be architecture, landscape, the nude, people, they did it all. And I think they were very versatile, and when you consider the equipment that they used back in those days, I think their accomplishments were very, very commendable, considering they were working with what we would call today rather primitive equipment. For the developer, it is absolutely critical. I do a lot of testing to determine my development times. Fixing time is not as critical as long as you're getting adequate fixation. I'm giving it now 4 quick rinses. Then I'll take the film out of the tube and wash it over here with the film washer that I have. I think of Ansel Adams as more of a teacher. That was his greatest contribution to photography, was the development of the zone system. And it is a system that virtually all fine art photographers use today. And it is a system whereby you could look at a scene, visualize the final result with your meter, place the values that are in the scene so as to get the correct exposure, and you carry that into the darkroom and apply the development that it was required, the film development that is required for that scene. And if everything goes right, your visualization of the subject at the time it was taken will be very, very similar to the final result. Now, Ansel Adams did some fine work, some wonderful images. I'm taking the film. This is always the suspenseful part of the operation, to see or to get a rough idea of how well you did on your film exposure and development. This was a window with a couple pots in it over in Bluff, Utah. I had to give it an extended development so that I would get adequate contrast.
So now I'll put the film back on the reel and wash it for 5 minutes. Now I'll turn on the water.
Why a water bath?
Water is to wash out the hypo and to make the negative archival. Well, Stieglitz was the one that made or brought photography forward as an art form. Prior to Stieglitz, photography was something that was done for commercial reasons, portraits of course, family gatherings and the like. But through Stieglitz's influence, a lot of photographers started doing a lot of different things than had been done before. And he provided the forum for their photography. Back in the days when he had his studio in New York, I guess it was most photographers' dreams is to go have an audience with Stieglitz and have Stieglitz display some of his prints. I didn't think all that much of Stieglitz as a photographer. While he has done some very nice images, and his images are bringing big money today, I think it was his influence bringing photography to the front as an art form was his greatest contribution. Well, Diane Arbus was certainly a different kind of a photographer. She lived on the edge, and she photographed the seedier side of life. As far as I know, she never did landscape. It was always people, and the people that she photographed were, for the most part, those that were certainly different from the mainstream. Circus people, freaks, transvestites, alcoholics, people that had problems, and her images really had impact. And I found a lot of them very disturbing, and I guess because I found them disturbing is what makes these images lasting. She was not the type of photographer that I would want to buy her prints to hang in my house. I would find them very disturbing, but she certainly made a contribution.
I'm putting the film as a final wash for only about 1 minute in a in distilled water with a few drops of photo flow.